The joke that ended the world, why the ego invented sacrifice, and why the teacher of God laughs. Who understands what giving means must laugh at the idea of sacrifice. Workbook Lesson 187. The joke isn't cruel. The joke is that we ever believed pain was real, that we ever believed God, perfect love, required payment, that healing meant punishment, that forgiveness meant punishment, that atonement meant suffering. If the truth is true, then sacrifice is not. This is the idea at the heart of the world's sickness. The idea that something must be lost in order for something to be gained. That someone must die for another to live. That love has a cost. That God of all things could hold a grudge. But the advanced teacher of God laughs. Not with mockery, but with divine recognition. The original special relationship, me and my ego. Before there was a him or a her, a you or a they, the first special relationship was forged with the ego. To say yes to the tiny mad idea is to say no to wholeness. It's to crown a separate self as king and exile the one. This is the root of specialness. The ego whispers, "You exist because God does not. Your existence is proof of God's absence." A self-made self triumphed. That's why Jesus asks the piercing question, if you knew your special relationship was a triumph over God, would you want it? Text, Chapter 16, Section 5. It's not about romantic entanglement. The special relationship is any investment in separation, any loyalty to guilt, fear, form, or a personal identity that seems to exist apart. That apartness is the triumph. What is sacrifice really? Sacrifice is the price tag the ego invented to keep guilt alive. It says something must be given up in order to get. It's the foundation of every war, every religion that believes suffering buys salvation, every relationship where love must be earned. Sacrifice is the belief that gain requires loss. And the world, this projection of guilt, shapeshifts sacrifice into infinite forms. Religious, God demands rituals, suffering, blood, devotion, dogma. Social, parents demand sacrifice to be good children. Romantic, partners demand proof of love through suffering or compromise. Capitalist, joy is earned by toil. Rest is justified only by exhaustion. Moral, virtue is validated by pain. The more one suffers, the holier they are. Everywhere it shows up, sacrifice hides one message. You are guilty. You stole something. Now pay. A world of sacrificing gods. Every religion, to the degree it believes in a God who requires sacrifice, believes in a made-up God. Catholicism has its sacraments of penance and self-denial. Evangelical Christianity preaches Jesus had to die to satisfy God's wrath. Judaism once had animal sacrifice in the temple. Islam teaches a day of reckoning. And in all of them, rituals of guilt, shame, worthiness tests. But Jesus, the real Jesus, undoes this. Chapter 3 of the course begins with atonement without sacrifice. That's the correction. The atonement is not a trade, not a price, not a payment. It's the recognition that nothing ever happened. How could the all and the everything know about nothing? That's why God does not forgive, because he never condemned. Forgiveness in truth is the undoing of what never was. The suffering servant. Isaiah's 4 songs and the Jesus myth. The Christian myth of Jesus as the Lamb of God comes straight from the Hebrew Bible's suffering servant songs in Isaiah. God sends an innocent one to suffer so others might be redeemed, and we swallowed it whole. But if God is love, how could he demand suffering? If God is whole, how could he recognize lack? If God is changeless, how could he make deals? Jesus didn't die to satisfy God. Jesus died to show that death is not real. The crucifixion was not the lesson. The resurrection was. And not because a body came back to life, but because the mind could no longer be deceived. Kill or be killed, the ultimate ego theology. An angry father pursues his guilty son. Kill or be killed, Manual for Teachers, Section 17. This is the ego's God. This is the God we invented to match the guilt we refuse to release. The one who's out for vengeance because we killed him with our existence. So we invent rituals. We confess, we suffer, we obey. We make ourselves small, loyal, afraid. We become slaves to a God who doesn't exist. That's the lie that keeps the dream going. A God who wants sacrifice, a love that costs, a truth that hurts. But the teacher of God laughs. He laughs as well at pain and loss, at sickness and at grief, at poverty, starvation and at death. Workbook for Students. Lesson 187. Paragraph 6. Sentence 4. Not because they're funny, but because they're not real. They are not causes, they are effects. And what is an effect but a shadow of a shadow in a dream? Pain is not real. Loss is not real. Sickness is not real. Grief is not real. Poverty is not real. Starvation is not real. Death is not real. The ego takes all these effects and says, "See, this is what happens when you defy God." But the Course replies, "No, this is what happens when you believe the ego is real. Get off the battlefield." On the battlefield, none of this is a joke. Why? Because we believe it. Because we think the body is who we are. Because we think the war is real. But it's not real in the mind. The dreamer who wakes knows and laughs. Not to shame, but to remind. Because the only place healing happens is at the level of the mind. That's where truth lives. That's where Jesus lives. That's where peace lives. So, what is peace? Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the absence of belief in conflict. Peace is what's left when you stop believing that sacrifice is necessary. Peace is the stillness that comes when you remember there is no loss. There was no sin. There is no need to pay. Peace is the undoing of sacrifice.